So, guys, Nuff Clipper High, friends, Darth Momo here. We are not that far away from the Clone Wars return. And we're, as of me filming this video, I'm fresh off the Clone Wars trailer coming out last week. So many good things, but shortly before this Clone Wars trailer came out, back when they were floating the 17th as a release date, I went and rewatched the whole show. And I kind of want to do a quick video talk about my thoughts, like rewatching Clone Wars. Was it worth it? Was it good? Etc. So, my thoughts on rewatching Clone Wars. It was good. It was a fun ride. It took me 2 weeks to do it. Yeah. And I watched everything except for the Bad Batch reels, because we're getting the Bad Batch. I watched the the unfinished movie reels for the Utapau arc. I watched all 6 seasons. I watched the movie. I even went and reread the Son of Dathomir comic just for fun. And I did it all in chronological order. So, there's some episodes where I would rewatch a lot, and I tried the past couple of years to, not rewatch the show a whole lot because I wanted to go through and do a rewatch. And, I always see the people saying, Season 1 was kind of bad. And I was always like, no, Season 1 was fun. I like Season 1. And then I rewatched Season 1. And I'm like, I'm watching the first episode of the show with Yoda, and then I'm watching the Malevolence episodes. I'm like, oh, these are kind of fun. I'm really loving these. These are good Star Wars. Rookies. It was amazing. And then I saw the next few episodes. I'm like, okay, the Jar Jar ones, the ones with the R2 going missing. I'm like, okay, yeah, there were some episodes I really liked, but Season 1 was kind of, I wouldn't say bad, but it wasn't really that good. The stories were it very much had a very kiddie tone. If the show just stopped with the first season, it would have gone down forever as a purely, pretty much kids show. I don't think the storytelling was all that mature. The animation is definitely very rough. I was just watching it, and my brother was watching it the other day, and I saw a couple moments. I'm like, you know what? It's weird, because even Rebels didn't have that, anti-fluid of motion with the characters in its first season. And it's weird, because then I watched, the next day, it was a couple episodes of season 2, and I'm like, wow, the animation just gets so much better with the second season. But then, the same thing, the second season, it grows up a little. And I think really the major turning part of the show is once they get the costume changes in midway through season 3. And I was on the edge of my seat, freaking out when I'm watching the Darth Maul episodes and the Ahsoka episodes in the 5th season. It's just, I think it was Star Wars storytelling at its finest in the show's 5th season. I mean, yeah, it's got some kiddie moments like those droid episodes, but overall I think the show really grew up. I think it hit a lot of highlights and it hit a lot of peaks. And I think it's just going to continue with that, with this final season. I don't know what too much to expect from the Ahsoka Walkabout arc, but, I know what the Bad Batch is about. I've seen the unfinished reels, and based off hints dropped in, Rebels, the Ahsoka book, and what they talked about at Celebration a couple of years, I pretty much have the basic ideas of what's happening in the Caesar Mandalore, but that trailer was so good. I think the show is just going to keep getting better and better. So overall, my rewatch, it was a fun experience. I love the show. I was sitting through, I'm laughing at a few moments. The stories are amazing. It really fixes a lot of problems with the prequel era. I mean, that being said, those films still have their issues, but even just watching Revenge of the Sith now, it's such a different light looking at that movie. Everything's in just such new light, and just, you look at it from a different perspective. Palpatine, Anakin, the Jedi, just everything about that movie, kind of changes, and you get a little bit of the story. In hindsight, having that show. And I think it's just a far more emotional experience, especially with Order 66, now that we know all these characters. So yeah, I mean, my thoughts on Clone Wars, I think while the first season was a little rough, the movie was very rough. I think overall, it hit a lot of peaks, a lot of great storytelling moments, just from anywhere from Umbara to Maul to Ahsoka to Order 66. So many highlights in this show, so many great things accomplished. And I've always said this, whether it was for good or for worse, depending on which trilogy, George Lucas has always tried to push the boundaries. There wasn't really too many boundaries pushed under the Disney era, but, original trilogy was all about pushing the boundaries of practical effects. For the prequel trilogy, it was all about pushing the boundaries of digital effects. And I think this show really pushed so many moments in animation, like the underwater episodes, or that big explosion with those droid episodes in season 5. There's so many great things about this show. honestly, and like I've said this before, if there's one thing that I think viewers should start with outside of the films, it should be the Star Wars The Clone Wars series. Followed up by Star Wars Rebels, of course, but yeah, so that's my thoughts kind of on Clone Wars. Rewatching it, I really, because of how long the show is, I don't want to go back and do reviews of every episode. Could I do it at some point down the road? Maybe, but I doubt it. But I do plan to review the episodes of Season 7, whether they're binge or they're weekly. As of this point with filming this video, they haven't yet announced it, but either way, I will review Clone Wars episodes, and then I do plan to go do a rewatch of Rebels, and I'll do a similar video just like I did with this and Resistance. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Clone Wars. I think it's so... I could sit here and talk about the show for 2 hours. I've said this before. I've made points before in other videos. It's so good. And I really recommend this show. It was a fun experience to go rewatch it. And I am hyped and excited for the final season. Thank you guys for joining in. Darth Momo out, and may the Force be with you. Always. We'll see you back soon for the final season of Clone Wars. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them delight.